What is going on, everybody? Zach RC here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome along to episode number 62 of the F1 Ultimate Career Series for the Singapore Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the last episode, make sure to go check that one out before you see this one. And as always, if you are new around here, then make sure to get subscribed for more future F1 content as the series continues on. So, nearing the last few rounds of the 2023 season, we head now to Marina Bay for the Singapore Grand Prix, our first visit there since Season 2. Our charity work in the last episode gave us some more acclaim, obviously not too helpful in terms of our prospects for next season. Of course, we look to try and find a new seat for 2024. In terms of upgrades, 2.7k resource points to spend. We'll put those towards a major chassis upgrade that will come in just after Japan, which is the next round, and after that would be Qatar. So looking forward to that race as well. Fastest car on the grid by quite some way now. We've built a gap of a Red Bull now, so they're now the second fastest car, and we are now on top, coming off our victory last time out in Monza. But of course, a number of changes need to be made to the power unit now. So putting a fresh ICE, our last one here, and a new energy store. Whether we'll get a penalty for that, not too sure, truthfully, because in Season 2, we had plenty of power unit changes before the race weekend, and as a result, we didn't lose too much there, so I have to wait and see. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Hamilton pulling away then after his podium finish to us finishing second last time out. We sit in 6th place in the standing still, but only 4 points back from Norris and 7 back from Perez, so a good race here could potentially put us into 4th place in the World Championship once again. And there's our rivalry. Leclerc unfortunately did beat us in the rivalry in the end, only just, so I had to move on from that. Hopefully we'll get one more for the end of the season, as 2 upgrades fail, a durability one and a powertrain upgrade. Both of them minor, so I have to make changes to those and get those readjusted. In terms of resource points, only 450 for the powertrain upgrade, so we'll sort that first. We've got the points for that, nice and easy. We'll have to accelerate a bit more time, I think, to get the last few points that we need. Luckily, there's one more weekly resources to come through before the next race, so we'll have that coming through nice and simple as well. So 751 points in the bank now, and that should be plenty to get us over the line. That last upgrade, 630 required, that'll come in for the next episode in Japan. So that's more or less what needs to be done in terms of preparation. And now it's time to head over to Marina Bay for qualifying and get this race weekend underway. Here we go then, time for qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix, round 11 of the 2023 season, and perhaps one of the toughest circuits we'll visit throughout the calendar. 19 corners, the Marina Bay circuit stands strong. Of course, the conditions here, obviously quite hot and humid in recent seasons in terms of real life Formula 1. Of course, you think back to 2022, the incredible race there, Perez taking victory despite that penalty, and of course, Carlos Sainz in the real life 2023 Grand Prix, taking the only non-Red Bull victory of the season. Of course, taking victory here in Singapore as Russell crashed famously on the final lap, chasing down Norris for P2. But hopefully, we'll have better luck than those guys did over the course of this race weekend. We try and get ourselves high up the order in the World Championship. So off of turn 19 then, and starting our first lap, going down to the first of the 3 DRS zones on the circuit, the run down towards turn 1 into the left-hander here, keeping it nice and smooth, hitting that curve. I'll try and keep it. Was immediately met with turns 2 and 3, right into an immediate left, and on corner exit now, making our way through a very small turn 4, and up towards 5 now. Of course, leading into our second DRS zone. We'll hit that curb on entry, hit the curb on apex, and then one as well on corner exit. Hit all 3 of those. Find the ideal sort of racing line, and making our way down through turn 6 now. DRS is in full deploy, making our way towards the end of the first sector. It's a 27.3, and obviously we'll get a bit more glimpse in terms of where we are pace-wise when everyone else comes through and sets lap times as well. Of course, onto sector 3 now. Of course, this last sector been remodified for the 2023 race. So turn 15 now just leads into one long straight going down towards turn 16, as opposed to a much more technical final sectors. Piastri goes fastest, 130.8 over the curb there at turn 17. Let me cost a 10.2 to come through the last 2 corners now to complete our first lap, lifting a little bit there for corner entry through turn 18, but over the line 131.7, so almost a second off of Piastri's pace, so work to be done then over the course of the session. I wasn't going for a second lap, but here come the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and of course the real life race winner Carlos Sainz, holding us up there at turn 3, so unfortunately any chance of improvement more or less out the window there, so we'll clear Sainz, and that'll more or less do it for our first runs. Back to the garage then, and making our change onto another set of soft tyres. It looks like we might see some rain over the course of the race weekend. We'll get more of a glimpse of that in terms of in the Grand Prix. P12 in the running order as of right now. Leclerc and Sainz fastest right now. Again, the top 3 separated by less than a tenth, and even so, Hamilton and Piastri not too far behind either. So qualifying is getting closer and closer here as we near the end of this Grand Prix season. But on to our second and final lap now, heading through the last sector, improving by 2 tenths in P13 right now. So need to find a bit more time. Hopefully that mistake we made in turn 17, the last lap, will be corrected. Yes, it is, and up by half a second now, charging the last 2 corners, hitting the wall on exit turn 17, and running wide there towards the line, 6 tenths up, and across the finish line. Where will we qualify? P8, so a 4th row start, could be compounded by the engine penalty. We'll have to wait and see how we start in the Grand Prix.
ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid. Hamilton, Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So Hamilton fastest then, Leclerc starts in second and Sainz runs at your top three, and it's Norris, Perez, Piastri, Verstappen, we line up 8th, Alonso in 9th, and Pierre Gasly round like your top 10. So it could be a tough race in the 4th row, truthfully. Hopefully we can try and get ourselves up to the podium at the very least, but now it's time to get action underway and jump into the Singapore Grand Prix.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. Here's the track, and it's all changed for 2023 with 4 corners removed between turns 16 and 19. It means the lap length is now just over 3 miles, and that might come as a welcome relief to the drivers, or especially their brakes. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Perez, Oscar Piastri, Verstappen, Cohen, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, Albon, Zhou, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Bottas, Sargent, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And what would any Grand Prix weekend be without the one and only Natalie Pinkham? Now I want to ask you about Lewis Hamilton.
What a quality performance. The big question, though, is how does that translate on race day? Can they hold on to that lead? Beside that, of course, any kind of turn 1 incident could completely turn the race on its head. Let's keep our fingers crossed everyone can get through in one piece.
Here we go then, no more talking, time for action for the Singapore Grand Prix from 8th place on the starting grid. Fortunately, the fresh energy store didn't mean we take a penalty, so we'll keep things calm there. In terms of strategy for the race ahead then, we're looking at rain towards the end of the Grand Prix here. So in terms of when that'll arrive, we may have to adjust strategy in terms of whereabouts we come through. So we'll start the medium tyre, we'll go hard to the end, and obviously when we need to make a change towards the end for intermediates, we'll go for that. But hopefully strategy should be all okay for us.
The formation lap gets underway here in Singapore. The fans have come out here in large numbers, and they'll be hoping to see an exciting race unfold before our very eyes.
Verstappen then not getting off the grid, but in terms of starting tyres, medium tyres the preferred weapon of choice for the majority of the field. 6 cars on the hard tyre, and Hamilton starts on the softs from pole. What's his first stint going to look like as Verstappen gets himself going?
As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
In real life, this is one of the most physically demanding Grand Prix of the season. 31 grueling laps around the Marina Bay Street Circuit, with the promise of potential rain later on in the Grand Prix. In terms of when it arrives, that could compromise us massively if we get it wrong, but hopefully the medium tyres will last us just fine until we get to a point where we need to make a pit stop. Verstappen back in his starting spot, lines up P7, Alonso to our right there. Behind us in the run towards turn 1 as the last 2 cars, Stroll and Sargent, take their places on the back row of the grid. But the lights are set to come on with Hamilton and Leclerc on the front row. Here they come. 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix, round 11 of the championship to get underway. Lights out, foot to the floor, go, go, go. We're racing under the lights in Singapore. Decent start compared to Verstappen, pulling all the way over to the left-hand side of the racetrack, almost going 3 wide with Piastri and Perez into turn 1. Norris and Perez get in front of us, 3 wide with Verstappen and Piastri going through turn 2 and into turn 3 now. Got to pull clear of at least one of these guys on corner exit. Piastri falls away side by side with Verstappen. We'll try and go wheel to wheel with our rival. Once again, going through turn number 5 now, around the outside of the Dutchman and up into 6th place. So 2 places gained then off the start, but now almost a second behind Norris and Perez. Hamilton has pulled away the 2 Ferraris following him in hot pursuit as we complete the first sector of this Grand Prix, but a decent getaway compared to 2 hard tyre starters there behind us now. Must work on the 2 cars in front of us, Lando Norris and Sergio Perez, to make our way through turn 8 here and keeping the car under control. Onto end lap number 1 now. Hamilton leads the way, starting on lap number 2 and closing in on Lando Norris. About half a second back from him now as he make our way through the first corner and into turns 2 and 3 once again. Of course, the aim here was to try and get a run on making our way out of turn 5. Yellow flag behind us and yellow flag in front of us too. It's an empty part of the first sector with the yellow flag out. Not quite sure why on earth that is out. That was one of the Alpines. Gasly has got a problem. Our former teammate is out of the Grand Prix very early on here, but in terms of our race, going to try and take on Lando Norris on the run down towards turn 7 here. No DRS just yet, but I've got good enough run with some battery. Can try and make a move to the inside, but Norris covers us off just about. Couldn't quite draw alongside, so as a result we stay in position number 6, making our way through turn 8 and keeping right on the tail of our compatriot in the McLaren. Of course, had a very entertaining scrap with them in Belgium a few rounds ago, looking to try and go toe-to-toe with them once again. But what happened to Pierre Gasly? Of course, retired there early on in this Grand Prix, making his way through turn number 1. And no smoke or anything, but he said a little wobble the AI makes, and that's more or less it. So Gasly pulling the car over here, and should we see a bit of smoke? There it is. That's normally the telltale sign that Gasly is out of the Grand Prix. So down 1 car already very early on in this race. But on to lap 3, DRS is in play for us. I'm going to try and work on Lando Norris in position. Verstappen a second back, no real threat for us as of right now. And these medium tyres, I get the feeling they may start to wear off slightly early in terms of pace here. But closing on Norris on the run down towards turn 7, nowhere near close enough to try and move. So Norris will hold P5 for now. Perez about a second in front of him, so hopefully if Norris can lose DRS from Perez, it'll give us more of a chance to get around 5th place to make our way through turn 8 once again. Norris holding on to the spot for now, and Perez keeping his distance as well. So on to lap 6 though, pace has dropped off considerably here as Verstappen may challenge us on the run down towards turn 16, but as of right now holding our spot, but losing a lot of time, about 3.5 seconds back from those guys. He's going to make our way through turn 17, back onto the main straight once again to begin lap 7 of this race. Piastri in tow as well, Alonso not too far behind either, making our way back towards turn 1. You see Alex Albon there in the points paying places, and Esteban Ocon of course lost his teammates. Verstappen tries the inside into the first corner, wheel to wheel once again with our former championship rival, but holding the place going through turn 3 and keeping the car under control. But it's going to be a tough ask to keep all these cars balanced. Verstappen and Piastri are particularly strong, especially with DRS, so to keep an eye on them, making our way down towards turn 7 once again. No DRS for us. Norris and Perez continue to pull away. Hamilton's got a lead over the 2 Ferraris in front, so good points for Mercedes over Red Bull as of right now. Verstappen closing in, won't go for a move, very similar to our case against Norris a few laps ago, so hold P6 for now, but holding this train at bay will become quite grueling here. And onto lap 9, Verstappen is still there, but Hamilton up front, making his first pit stop. Of course, Lewis started on the soft tyres, the only cars to do so. So in terms of his strategy from here, because that rain is still coming, we're not entirely sure as to when in the Grand Prix. Most likely I think it will come late on, sort of around any point after lap 20 or so, but Hamilton is in medium tyres in that race car. We're going to emerge in front from here up into P5, and that means that Leclerc and Sainz now lead the way onto lap number 13 in this race. Verstappen is still challenging us, but Piastri getting to his inside first, going towards that first corner. There goes the rookie to the inside on the championship contender into the first corner. Piastri may well nip in front of Max Verstappen here on corner exit, but Piastri side by side with him out of turn 3 and through turn 4, pulling ahead a little bit here, making our way towards 5. Verstappen is right alongside him and won't give in here, but Piastri around the outside has DRS, both cars have DRS of us on corner exit. Piastri jumps in front, Verstappen has to cede, so upper place from Oscar Piastri, but as for us, those two fighting have allowed us to open up a pretty hefty lead compared to what we had in the last few laps or so. And now second in front of these guys is make our way through turn 8 once again, but going a bit deep there on our entry. Piastri may well close back into DRS range, so any advantage we had will be short-lived here. So on to lap 14, Piastri still right behind us, half a second back to make our way through, sliding there through turn number 11 and going into 12 and 13, a very tight braking zone, running Piastri's back right tyre in, making our way through 13 and that very tight corner on the circuit, and up towards 14 now. DRS in play and trying to come back at Oscar Piastri on the run towards the right-hander around the outside, taking the long way round on the rookie, and on corner exit looking to try and pull clear, still side by side, making our way past, but getting caught for an illegal overtake, and we've strayed just off the circuit at turn 14. The track limits at turn 14 are quite weird in terms of where the markings are. We're going to back this thing to box this lap because the rain is still, it's imminent, but at least that's what we're being told. There's still no sign of it as of yet. We're going to stay out for now, so stay on these medium tyres for a bit longer, but obviously they'll start to wear thin eventually. And pushing on to lap 16 now, the rain has hit us. The rain is in full swing, and Lewis Hamilton, our teammate, of course, made his first stop, is now right on our tail, running wide there at turn 19, clearly misjudging how wet the track actually is, and Hamilton making the pass there, going into turn number 1.
Conditions are going to keep deteriorating for 10 minutes at least. Dry has definitely seemed like the fastest tyre at the moment.
So dry is still the fastest for now. The track not quite wet enough to make that change onto the intermediates yet, so no one's going for it as of right now. Pushing further on as Hamilton pulls away from us onto by the end of lap 17. Leclerc is on our tail. Verstappen's falling away here, making her way through as Leclerc's obviously made his stop, sliding through turn 19 and on corner exit. Leclerc gets past in the same way Hamilton did, and Leclerc's P5. We're down to P6 now. In terms of weather, the medium tyres are wearing thin as well. On to lap 18.
Okay, conditions are going to keep deteriorating for 10 minutes at least. Dries definitely seem like the fastest tyre at the moment.
The mediums here can't last much longer, so we have to make our stop going into the pit lane for a set of hard tyres, and hopefully the rain doesn't get any worse than this over the next few laps or so. Hopefully it draws to a close, as it says, about 10 minutes or so. So hard tyres going on. Hopefully they'll last us to the end of the Grand Prix, and honestly, this looks like it's gone horribly, horribly wrong in terms of starting those mediums, because we've got to go too long into the Grand Prix. We're about 5 or 6 laps over our original pit entry lap. So coming away now out in P12 down to potentially P13. Not sure actually we're going to emerge here. We may emerge last of the running cars to make our way back onto the racetrack again on lap number 19 of this thing. The rain getting a lot heavier here, at least from what I can see. We're out in P17, make that P18 as Hulkenberg gets in front. Only Logan Sargent is behind us right now, getting a warning for crossing the pit exit white line, making our way through turn number 3 now, and carrying on our way. But onto that 20 lap later, the rain has gotten much, much worse, and you see Verstappen has made the change for intermediate tyres. Obviously, it's the right time to come in and change. We've made a horrible blunder here, and if we'd lasted about a lap or two longer, we may have been able to manage to save this one and go onto the intermediate tyres. End lap number 20 now, diving into the Hulkenberg, making a move at the very least to get up into P15, so P16 now. A number of cars have made the change onto intermediates. Of course, Verstappen's already stopped, so he's going to gain a number of places here, but coming in for what will likely be our last stop of this Grand Prix. I can't imagine the rain drying enough to go back onto the dry tyres, but this has been a disaster here, and we're on for quite a poor finish in terms of what we could have been, and hopefully we can still try and salvage some points paying places from this, but I think likely our chances are shot as the intermediate tyres go on. We'll see whereabouts we emerge here, because a number of cars have to double stack with both their drivers, making their way out of the pit lane here. 2.3 second stop once again. Zhou emerged in front, so we're back in P16 for now. Zhou and then Magnussen are the cars in front of us. In terms of gauging whereabouts the last points paying places, you're looking at about, I'd assume, one of the AlphaTauri's, either Ricciardo or Tsunoda, up there in the top 10 as we slide through turn 2, hitting the barrier there on pit exit, making our way through turn 3 and pushing on. Our aim now is to try and get ourselves some points towards the end of the Grand Prix as we continue to chase down Guan Yu Zhou into turn number 9 here, and on corner exit, pushing away from the corner. Oh no! Oh no! MGUH is gone! And honestly, truthfully, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not too upset because this would have been our worst actual Grand Prix finish, the worst finish position we've had in the Ultimate career. So we've been saved from that stat, but ultimately, it just saves us having to drive the last 10 laps outside of the points. So putting over the car, our 5th retirement of the season, our 5th mechanical failure, the most we've had in any campaign in Ultimate career so far, breaking 2021's record of 4. Very unfortunate for us to be out the Grand Prix, but I'm not too upset. The race was shot more or less, and this will save us some other power unit parts, but disappointing to not at least see the checker flag in the Singapore Grand Prix.
What a great race it's been then. Another classic Singapore Grand Prix. And they've held on to take the checkered flag here today. So, Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Now, I'm not sure how keen I am on wet weather, but it is thrilling in terms of the race. The fans seem to enjoy it at least. It can be an absolute nightmare for the drivers, though.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
So Sergio Perez then fully assumes his status as a street circuit master and wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Lando Norris in second, and Hamilton falls back to 3rd place in the end, so not quite sure what happened in what must have been a chaotic race to cap things off. Of course, the rain coming definitely threw a wrench in our plans, and celebrations begin for the top 3 drivers in the championship. Hopefully, more constructors' points for Mercedes, but I think Red Bull will likely close us down. We'll have a look now at the final results. It is quite chaotic Grand Prix, and see where that leaves us in terms of the race for the drivers and constructors' world championships.
So let's review the updated driver's standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Well, there was a lot of incredible driving out there today, but if I had to pick someone, it's got to be Sergio Perez. Fantastic driving.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. It was a tough race for our championship leaders, who lose ground at the top of the table. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So off the podium then, Sainz finishes in 4th place, Leclerc finishes 5th, Piastri in front of Verstappen in the end, so Verstappen finishes 7th, and it's Alonso, Tsunoda and Albon who round up the points paying places. Of course, myself and our first teammate in Formula 1, Pierre Gasly, both failing to finish. Pierre Gasly retiring after a lap and a half, we retire after 21, so unfortunate, but I think we got spared from a lot of tough driving the last 10 laps. In terms of the World Championship, Hamilton now 39 points clear of Verstappen, and any chance of taking P4 is shot for now. Work to be done to try and close down Norris, who's now 22 points in front of us. Perez is 32 points clear, so plenty to be done in these last 5 races to try and take P4 at least in the Drivers' Championship. Mercedes lead Red Bull by P7. I think the constructors, it'll be our main concern. Let's put our individual glory aside, at least for now, to the end of the Grand Prix season. But guys, that'll do it for this episode of the F1 Ultimate Career Series. Hope you did enjoy it despite the unfortunate finish. If you did, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more future F1 content. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.